opportunity for more food.
Kiss us off to get us going.
We thought it'd be nice that you guys had an opportunity to ask the panel some questions, but we've also prepared a few questions in advance where you guys spend some time thinking about what you want to ask. But what I'm going to ask them to do first is introduce themselves. Some of them you'll know well as stars of the film, some of them have been a bit more behind the scenes. So if we start with you, John, on screen. Sadly, the rail strikes have meant we couldn't have John with us, but he's zooming in from London or Brighton, John?
Brighton, sunny Brighton, yeah. Yeah, sorry I can't be there, but I guess if it means a few railway families can feed their kids a bit more, it's kind of worth it for me. I'm glad I can be here like this. Yeah, I'm a video journalist at The Guardian, been there about 15 years. I'm a bit of a veteran, and yeah, I've sort of been doing this big project called Made in Britain, which involves reaching out to communities and co-producing films with them. And that's how this came about, yeah.
Thanks, John. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Harrison. I'm the events manager for Kensington Fields.
And the rest.
Hi, I'm Sue Robinson. I'm the Centre Coordinator at Kensington Fields Community Centre. And it's local residents, and as you can see, my heart is just in our community.
Thank you. I'm Colin McPherson. I was one of the production team on the film. John brought me in to work with the community here, and also Jen Graham, the filmmaker, unfortunately can't be with us tonight, as a sort of bridge between John and the community and Jen. So that was my role in it. Thank you.
I'm Paul Kelly. I'm the director of Breaking Ground, which is the recently launched about a year ago, the community-led housing hub for the Liverpool City region, supporting communities to take back control of their land, their assets, their homes, and to get projects moving. This is our land.
And I'm delighted to be chairing this event tonight and get to ask you a few of the starting questions. John, we're going to kickstart with you. So this film is the 5th episode of the Made in Britain series. Another one came out actually a couple of weeks ago. Could you tell us about the Made in Britain series, where it came from, and what was your vision behind it?
Yeah, so like I said, I've spent years as a video journalist. I know journalist reputations aren't that great around Britain at the moment, but I like to think I'm one of the good ones, at least try. And we try and get out and about to communities and telling their stories. I do a series called Anywhere But Westminster. Some of you might have seen one of them. In fact, we did one in Kensington, just up the road, about 6 years ago. Like I say, journalism, when done well, is all about giving voice to people. However, I sort of felt that there was a step further we could go, and part of the kind of trust issues with the media in Britain, I think, are that the media is something that happens to people, not with them or by them or for them, right? So Made in Britain kind of evolved out of this idea, and I wanted to kind of work with places like Kensington Fields, and not just me report their story for them, but we co-produce these stories together. We offer training and also money, which is important, and we involve the community, both the people on screen like Sue and Mark, and the people who are behind the screen like Jen, and we sort of produce this thing together in quite a sort of experimental way. And it's been a total nightmare. No, it's been really interesting. Much harder than just doing it normally, but I think you'll agree, hopefully, that the results are something kind of special. They're special to me anyway, and feel different from anything I've done before.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing that's been produced that really captures the spirit of here. If you were to come here any other day, I think it would feel just like it did on the film, which is a testament to how much time and effort John, Jen, Colin all spent here really getting to know the community so that everyone's comfortable in front of the camera. Mark and Sue, how did you feel about the film being made in Kenny Fields with The Guardian? And if you can think all the way back to, I think it was January when I phoned you up, Sue, and said, let's do this. What were your kind of hopes for this project?
I think my hopes for the project was I wanted the community to be portrayed in a positive way. Yeah. Although there's a lot of problems in the community, I didn't want it to be all about people being negative. I wanted to actually show our community for what it is, and that's the residents, the children, the schools, everybody that live and work in our community. I wanted it to be shown in a positive way.
exactly the same as Sue. I was quite apprehensive at the start for the same reason. How are they going to portray it? Because we've had numerous calls, letters of film crews of Kensington here, and they wanted to compare with Kensington in London, and it was just like, we've knocked loads back, but I think because Feeding Liverpool were behind it, it eased us a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've worked together for quite a few years now.
So
We trust each other.
that exactly, and that's what made the push forward.
Mark. And Colin, you've obviously worked on lots of different kind of films and projects like this, but what have you learnt on this project? How's it been for you?
Well, it's been a really interesting journey, a real sort of eye-opening process. I mean, I live on Merseyside, and you know, Kensington is the sort of community that does get a bad name. It's a sort of place that people just drive past without thinking about the people and the stories that the people have. And I think as a journalist, as a filmmaker, as a photographer for over 30 years, I just find it more and more, I think it's my mission, I think it's all of our mission to tell those stories, but to amplify those people's voices. So for me, it wasn't about coming and saying, I've got an agenda, we've got an agenda, we're going to make a film about Kensington. It was about turning up and listening to the people here, and using our skills to try and amplify their voices and get a message across, because you can't underestimate the power of the media. And an organisation like The Guardian has a big reach. So if we can make something that resonates and it has real integrity, then I think people will listen to it. And I think that is a small thing we can do to try and affect change in this country, because we need a lot of change in this country, and it's got to be led by communities like this.
Exactly. And Paul, we're coming to you in a little bit, but first we're going to go back to, I know he's like, desperate. No, we're going to talk more about Community Land Trust in a minute, but I wanted to ask Sue and Mark first. This was a collaboration with lots of us involved, but do you feel your voices were heard, the voices of Kenny Fields?
I definitely feel our voices were heard, and it's thanks to people like The Guardian, Feeding Liverpool, that they give us that opportunity. Without them, I mean, although sort of we know, as you can tell, I'm not a professional person by any stretch. I mean, I just sort of say things in simple terms. But what I really want to say is, I think everybody put the heart on the sleeves making it, and I really do hope that the community come out good in it.
Definitely. Again, I completely agree with what Sue says. She's saying me a lot of talking, I'm happy to be fair. Yeah, completely agree with what you say. It is the community, it's the spirit, it's the art, and you don't even need to, it's not false. It's what we do, it's what everyone does, it's everyone in the community, they're passionate for the area. But yeah, completely agree with what you say, Sue.
It's all right, Mark. Your time will come in a minute when we move on to Community Land Trust. But John, what about you? This is the 5th in the series. I know you've got others on the go, but what have you learnt through being involved in this one at Kenny Fields?
I mean, at first I'm just relieved to come out of it unscathed, because the first time I met Sue was like, you better be filming it right. And so I was like on my toes from the beginning. But I mean, genuinely, I would say that I would say this because I'm speaking to you guys in the room, but I love filming in Liverpool. I think Liverpool people are very open in general, and like Mark says, you're just doing it. You know, there's no front, there's no like agenda there, and that was amazing to find here. The other thing I would say is that you guys have created, not just you on the panel, but other people involved, people like Myra, Keith, have created something special in that centre. And to me, it's been a privilege with Made in Britain to go to places like this and not just parachute in and out, but to spend sort of genuine time there and try and enable you guys, people, to get these stories across. And the last thing I would say is, in terms of what I've learned across the whole series, is that Britain's in a right mess at the moment in all sorts of ways, right? But And very often we sort of, especially people on the left, maybe sometimes look to like the government and the Labour Party and think, you know, people above to put things right. And I personally think, you know, yes, you need people above doing the right things, but the answers to a lot of the solutions lie in rooms like this and in the communities that I've been filming this series in. I really, really believe that. The answer's, you know, bottom-up change, and we just need to empower people, you know, the Sues, the Marks, and all, you know, the Pauls, the Land Trusts, all of that. That's how we're going to get ourselves out of this mess.
Thanks, John. Your time is about to come now, Paul. This is exciting. Pass it on.
It's going to be very disappointing.
At Feeding Liverpool, one of the things we're passionate about is that local people have a say of what's in their local community. So we've seen high streets really change. We've seen just, you know, what food is available. That's kind of where our perspective, where we come from this. But what I'd love you to explain, Paul, is a little bit about Breaking Ground, what you do, and the wider Community Land Trust movement, which is happening across the city region.
Okay. So Breaking Ground was set up with lottery funding 2 years ago, so we're funded by Power to Change, and our role is to support the development of community-led vehicles that can own land and their assets. And the Power to Change, the lottery funder, invested in 5 neighbourhoods, 5 areas across the country to actually try and stimulate how communities could do that. In the 70s and 80s, Liverpool was at the cutting edge of this work, particularly with the housing cooperative movement developed in the city. There was a revolution in Liverpool in the 70s and 80s, alongside Glasgow, and this was the place where communities could take back control. Liverpool is no longer in that position. I'll say a little bit in a moment about actually tomorrow is a very important day for us all, but actually communities up and down the country, as was mentioned, have had enough. Whether you're a rural community in Devon that nobody can afford to live in, or whether you're a community in an urban area that is getting pushed out by big private finance, communities are using these community-led vehicles to take back control. And so there's a really huge movement growing of community land trusts and housing cooperatives particularly. The community land trust movement started in America through the civil rights movement in the 60s. The black community in America taking back control of their land and their assets, and that's where the concept came from. And there are now over 400 community land trusts in the UK, and we're here to support and guide communities through setting up what is a legal vehicle to actually own, as a business, as a community-led business, land and assets. That point that was made before, I think, is really important. Councils and how they deliver stuff has got to change, and I think we all know Liverpool's been through a real challenge over the last couple of years, but actually tomorrow the City Council is adopting a community asset transfer policy, which is fundamentally really quite a radical thing to be doing. And I take my hat off to Joanne Anderson and Sarah Doyle, who's leading Regeneration, that has pushed and fought to get this policy to be approved tomorrow. And that means communities like yourself, if you get organised, and it is a lot of work, and you're setting up a legal entity that can raise private finance to do what you want to do, the council are going to be supporting that moving forward. So tomorrow is a really big moment in the city, actually, and we're very excited about that.
Thanks, Paul. And Mark, what we saw was the launch of the Kensington Fields Community Land Trust. That was right at the end of March, wasn't it? So we're a few months on now. Can you tell us a little bit about why a community land trust and then what's happened since?
Where do we start? I agree with Paul.
Tell us, since the land trust set up, what's been happening?
There's a lot been going on behind the scenes. I don't want to give too much information as of yet. There's a lot of bids being sorted by Helen and the team. We are up to the bank accounts, getting the bank account sorted at the minute. Once that is concrete, and then hopefully we'll hit the ground running. And hopefully tomorrow with the change, I'd like to be the guinea pig of money given out to Kenny Fields, CLT, if any councillors are in here.
Yes, please.
Yes, he's in here.
Thank you, Nick.
Don't be hiding Nick behind the board. Yeah, that's where we are at the minute.
What advice would you give to other communities looking to set up a community land trust from your experience?
It's not easy, but
No, it's not easy. You've got to stick together. Have your plan, stick to the plan. What I haven't done, because they're still waiting on my ID for the bank account. But yeah, no, definitely have a plan, stick to it. Stick to your guns basically as well. Stick to what you believe in. But it'd be nice to also exchange what the other land trusts have done and what they've tripped up on, to be fair, and try and work your way through and make the best.
We're better together, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And thank you, Breaking Ground, for helping us do some of that, sharing some of that knowledge. Putting you on the spot, Paul, but you've heard it from Mark, they'd like to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Right, this is the final question, and then we're going to go to you guys to start thinking what you want to ask the panel. So, Paul, what can communities do if they want to set up a community land trust? You might have some people here thinking, how can we get started?
Yeah, we're on a roll in Liverpool. We've now got Homebaked Community Land Trust, which people will know about. Granby 4th Street's Community Land Trust, both of them the pioneers in this sort of work. And they created that on their own. We've now got Kensington Fields Community Land Trust. We've got L8 Matters Community Land Trust. We've got the Florrie Community Land Trust. We've got a new one developing in Everton Village. We've got a meeting next week with that inaugural group. And I suppose we would just ask, if anybody's interested, get in touch. We're also working with a group of boat dwellers who, crazily, you can't find affordable moorings in this city built on water. So we're trying to set up a cooperative-led moorings in Liverpool. And yeah, just get in touch. We're here to follow everybody from the journey of setting up a group right through to getting funding together to build houses, build affordable shops, and make communities thrive more. The less people are paying in rents, this is a really interesting thing. Social landlords in the city, by law, could set up increase their rents this year by 4.1%, and they all did. Across the country, they all did. Community land trusts are reducing rent for their tenants because, as we hear day in, day out, this crisis in terms of affordability, if community groups can get organised, they can be part of the answer. And there has to be a new business model for these things, and community-led is the answer. The only thing I would echo with Mark is there is work involved. People have to commit, but you share the workload. And look at the amount of people here today. So it's about building you join a community land trust to bring something to the table, not to take. But it's a really exciting movement.
Thank you. All right. Now we've got a bit of chance for questions from the audience, and then we will hear from the panel again when they tell us what's next, because I know that would be my question, what we're going to do next. But first we're going to take some questions. We've got Colin, who's Feeding Liverpool's development worker, with a kind of roaming mic. So Colin, yeah, a wired mic. Put your hands up if you've got a question to ask. He's coming round to the back.
But what we need is loads and loads of shops, and then start on the housing.
So what we need is loads of shops, and then start on the housing.
On a community really, only us that deal with the rest of it. We need to go and knock on doors and pull them all together. Because I think there's only me.
And my friends from where we live,
Everyone else is
from
I'm
everywhere else.
Where are you from? Yeah, because many of us
it's because
Maz, Mary, it was an invited audience. We didn't really. It was.
Oh, I'm sorry then.
This is just the first of the film screenings.
It was much more part of the screening. That's why.
All right, we've got a question at the back.
I'll pick up from Mary's point, which I think is a good one. But this, as I've said a couple of times, this is not an easy task. This is extremely difficult. People are frustrated. What's motivating you to do it? What's your inspiration?
What a great question. Sue, do you want to start and then over to Mark?
Well, my motivation is actually the community. That's what I do it for. I do it for the children because I really do think they've got to be fed, they've got to be looked after. I do it for the older generation. I do it for the unemployed. I mean, I haven't got a magic wand. I can't solve all the problems. But I think working together as a community, we can have a really good crack at doing this all.
We would like Sue with a magic wand. I think you'd do a lot of good.
Thank you.
Mark, do you want to come in? And then maybe
I
to John
completely
as well.
agree with what Sue said. No, I'm born and bred around here, and I've seen a decline in the area. It's just close to your heart, as Sue said again. Even the kids, there's nothing here for the children. There's nothing. Part of the community land trust, we want stuff for the kids. We want to set a building company up so we can provide apprenticeships for the kids around here. Not just around here as well, the surrounding areas. That's what we want, isn't it, Sue?
It certainly is.
You're a good double act, I tell you.
This is really women power, isn't it? These men can't think for themselves.
John, you might. Do you want to tell us what's motivated you to keep telling these stories?
I mean, just, you know, like the guys have said, like what you see, what Sue you see in the centre, like week in, week out. I also see, but common problems across different communities in Britain, you know, different places with very different profiles. Like a lot of need for this, a lot of people who are struggling, but also it's really important to stress, like I said before, it's not just people that are struggling, it's people having a hunger to do something and to help and to do something and to take matters into their own hands. That's really inspiring. It's not enough to be shocked by the need in Britain. That's what I found. You need to be inspired by the people who are doing stuff about it and want to get involved. And that inspiration keeps me going.
Thanks, John. We got any more questions? Wave your hand at Colin. Yep. We'll stay here and then he'll come over this side, I promise.
So full disclosure, I'm not a student, but I am going to talk about students. It came up in the film then, and it's something that I've spoken to other people about, how the integration of students doesn't necessarily work, like especially when it grows as quickly as it has, because like I've seen house prices soar just in my lifetime, never even a man's or other people's. Like it's something that's happened quite quickly, and I wonder like how much do you work with the universities in terms of like student liaison, or how much are the students prepped as to what area they're moving into, what the history of the area is, how they can get involved? You know, like is there a role that exists within the university where the students could then integrate, rather than they just get plonked anywhere? They look at how far it is from the uni, what bus they can get, how long they can stay in bed, and then that's it. They just move in, you know what I mean? That's it. So I wonder, like, is there a step further we could go with the university and with the students to be able to not have them as something that's causing a deterrent, have them as a part of this strong community, and have them keep coming back and keep getting involved.
That's part of the plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, you go.
Right, sorry, Mark wants me to answer this one as well, so he can agree with me. I can't really speak about the housing, how they're allocated, because I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know, that we want to try and work, if we do set up the community-led housing trust, we want to work with the students. We don't want to kick students out of their accommodation where they're living in Kensington. But what we're saying is we would like the houses, when they leave, to be converted back into family homes. But as I say, we're not in sort of, I don't want you to think for 1 minute that we're saying we don't want to work with the students, and I wouldn't like them not to feel part of this community. But also, we do have an awful lot of students who volunteer here, and there's a lot of students who use the pantry. So, you know, we do work with them.
I think the complexity of the issue came across really well in the film. You know, students are members here and they serve here as well, but some of those challenges. If you look at some of the comments on the Guardian YouTube clip, a lot of students or past students have said, oh, that was my community, oh, I didn't realise some of the impact we had. There's some really great comments there. Do take a look.
We want the students integrated as well for our kids. We want them to look at them and aspire to them because they're the future. And if we can use the students within our community, whether it's them learning the kids or whatever they do, we want them. We want them integrated with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. There's definitely some questions this side. Do you want to head over here, Cole?
This is just a quick one. We have these things on our seats inviting us to join the Community Land Trust. And I've just had a quick look, and obviously you want money, but what because it says, you know, there's a donation, you give to it, but what happens if somebody fills in one of these? What are they committing to, and what do they get from it? How does it work?
Paul?
So a Community Land Trust is a membership organisation. It's a democratic cooperative organisation. So the model here is that. It's a community benefit society. Everybody who becomes a member has to pay £1. You can pay more. We will accept more. But for that, you become a lifelong member of the Community Land Trust. And because this one is just launched really, and we're still developing the business plan, what we will do is look at what are the key priorities. So number one is to get ownership of this land for this building. That's what the Community Land Trust wants to support the Community Association for. We're looking at vacant sites of land for housing and potentially shops with housing above. So that's going to be the big projects that we initiate, and we would want members to get as involved as they can in that whole process. And we will keep you informed as the Land Trust here, just of how things are progressing. But it's about getting your ideas for what could happen here, and also what skills you might have. You might be an accountant, and you might be able to contribute specialist skills to help the group as they get organised.
So you don't have to live here?
You don't have to live here, no. And organisations can also join, but everybody has one member, one vote. So the university, I think, is going to join, and the hospital will join. Equally, they will pay their £1, they will have a membership like everybody else, they will come to the AGM, and they will have one vote, just like everybody else, so completely democratic.
Chris is one of our trustees at Feeding Liverpool, so I'm sure we'll be joining as part of this. Sadly, not an accountant. Colin, are there some more hands? A couple more questions? Wendy, at the back.
Thank you, and congratulations on the film. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure it will continue to have a huge impact for a long time. So my name's Wendy, and I'm a lecturer at Liverpool Hope. So I thought I should probably say something, and fortunately I did have a little word with Sue just before to say I'm a lecturer in social work. So I was talking about how wonderful it would be if I could bring some of my students down here to work, but I think absolutely all I can say is offer the opportunities and maybe going forwards how we can work together, because I'm certainly interested in doing work on food insecurity myself and with pantries and transforming systems, but I think in terms of being a lecturer at university, you know, we have a responsibility to work with the communities where our students live and to try and work with the students' unions as well, so that's a bit of advice, but I think it's breaking down those barriers and understanding how we can work from the bottom up really and work together and better together, as Naomi said. So, I thought I should show the face.
All right, is there a final kind of question before we ask the panel what's next? I think we have lost John, sadly, from the Zoom. But... Oh, he's back. He's there. You were frozen very nicely, though. It was very fortunate. Neil's got a question. Neil's from Church Action on Poverty, and thank you for the team for all your support with this work.
Thanks, Naomi. As a Mancunian, can I say fantastic? Glad that I've been allowed to come today. I think my question is what's your vision for where you would like to be in 5 years' time? What would it look like to come here in 5 years' time? What would be different about the place if you really your dreams came true?
You've stolen my question for what's next, so.
Right. Well, first of all, for me, I would like to see the CLT being a success. I would like to, in 5 years' time, I don't think we'll probably see houses built, but I would like to say we'd be along the line with plans, etc. to do it. I'd love to see us, the children, being well fed without pantries, food banks, etc. But I think that's something that I most probably can't put right by myself, even though I'd love to have a good go at it. And I think I don't want sort of John, Colin, Naomi, Paul to walk out of this community centre. I think we all still need to work together. I've already told John I want him back in 12 months for the next part of the film. And believe me, he said he's going to do it, even though his boss doesn't know about it yet. So that's my vision. I mean, I have lots of visions about lots of things. That's most probably why I don't sleep at night, because my brain ticks over. I need to be looking at this. I need to be trying to work this out for our community. Well, not for it, work with our community to sort things out. And hopefully, you know, it'll make us a stronger community in the end.
I'm going to be a little bit more ambitious than Sue. I'd like to see the High Street built, commercial, units, residential above. Going forward with the business we'd like to set up for apprenticeships within the building industry and whatever else. I think we can achieve it within 5 years. It is very ambitious, but I think we can. And the more people that get behind it, it can happen. Where's Nick? This is directed at Nick. We definitely need our lease. We want our lease. Yeah, we're going to handcuff ourselves to the bar wherever. Yeah, that's it. Our main priority, obviously, is the centre, because it's coming up to 50 years that we've been. Well, not me, because I'm only just turned 39. But the centre's been here 50 years almost, so it is a massive milestone, and I think we deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got one more question from the audience, and then we'll hear from others on the panel.
I might be better without a microphone, unless you've got a hearing loop. I met Sue 25 years ago when I worked for Pension Regeneration. It's part of the City Council under Objective 1. Loads of promises are always made, but I met Sue 25 years ago when they set up the new Community Association to keep this place open. It's great how much they've done in 25 years, but always watch the people that promise you things, because in the end, you have to keep an eye on them, because they promise you, I've got all the manifestos still on my shelf somewhere, because I haven't thrown them out yet, of what's going to happen in this area. I remember the consultation with the tenants, what the tenants wanted to do, but they've stuck with it for 25 years. And you have to be in for the long haul. Keep the pressure on your councillors and your MPs, keep them to the words and things they say they're going to do, because they can make things happen, but they don't make them happen unless you say this is what you want to happen. And then watch them and watch them. But without the involvement so far, this place would have been closed. I was secretary of the Unity Youth Club. The council walked away from it 25 years ago and closed it. So a group of us, you can tell I'm not from Liverpool, a group of us got together, we got it reopened, we set up a new community association. We also got £1 million funding over 12 years to pay for staffing. So there's a youth clubs, junior youth club, senior youth club. You need to perhaps tap into people about how you get this funding, because an area like this should be getting big lottery funding in big amounts. Yeah. So lean on the people, because, but also keep the pressure on them, because you can make things happen. But other people are the gatekeepers and the resource holders, and you've got to open their purses. And that's the thing that's hardest to do. The promises are cheap, but action is better.
Have you joined our CLT?
I'm retired, I'll take one over me.
Again, coming back to you, everything you've just said is absolutely amazing, but it comes down to the lease for us again. It's that gate key. Once we get that lease, then we can go forward. But I'd definitely like you to join the Community Land Trust. Thank you.
You will All right, we're coming to the end of tonight, but I'd like to ask the panellists just to give a minute or so of what's next. So I'm going to start with you, Colin. What projects have you got coming up? What's next? How can we keep following your work?
Well, I mean, there's one project, I've been told about it already tonight. Be back here. Sue's more or less demanding it, and I'll be delighted to continue to document the work that's going on here. I mean, documentary filmmaking and photography is about being in it for the long term, is about seeing the change. And I'm very excited about it. I think, 5, 10, 15 years, we will look back with a sense of great pride in what we've done here in 2022, but just think what we can do going forward. So, I couldn't keep away anyway, because Myra's tea keeps me going as well. So I will be back regularly. I won't wait 12 months. I'll be back a long time before that, and I can't wait to work with you.
Oh, thank you very much, Cole.
Thanks, Cole. And we know tomorrow's a big day, Paul, but what's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I think for me it's just about continuing to support communities to take back control. I very much agree with Mark. We're working on a project in Runcorn where Halton Borough Council came to us and said, here's a piece of land, we want you to set up a community-led project. We set up a community land trust, it's just being incorporated, so slightly behind. But on the site they'll be building 47 homes and 6 commercial units for artists to work from, all owned by the Community Land Trust. And it has to be finished in 3 years. The reason why we're funded is to escalate this. So I'm with Mark. If we don't start moving on projects here, other people will. This will become an area where finance will drive it. So I'm here for the long haul, working with this group as a priority in Liverpool, and let's make this happen.
Thank you. John, what's next for you? We've still got a few more of these coming out, I think a couple more in the series, but yeah, what's on your horizons?
I think I'm going to collapse for a bit when the last film is out in a couple of weeks. But we got 2 more, which makes 8 in total. I'd actually love for some people in this room to watch some of the others and let me know what you think, because the resonances across them are really interesting. And the other thing that really struck me tonight listening to you guys is that we're all sort of trying to answer the versions of the same question, aren't we? Paul and Mark are looking in particular at land and people's control over land and bottom-up solutions to that. Sue and Feeding Liverpool, the same thing but with food. And for me, I guess my passion in that sense is journalism, and how can we make that more democratic and dignified for people, in a lot of places who don't know a journalist, they've never met a journalist, and they don't have any hope of becoming one. So I want to find ways of just carrying on this work, and also it's important to say that I'm also beholden to funders. Like, I had to raise money for this project. I'm hopeful someone will put their hands in their pocket to try and do some more of it in future.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate your commitment and your passion that's gone over many years on this project. I'd love to give the final words to Sue and to Mark. Maybe we should let Mark go first, so we can just say I agree. But final reflections from you two.
Sorry, what was that? I was actually looking at Myra to call Myra up.
Oh.
Myra, come here. Myra, please. No, I've got a good joke. Please come here. Please, Myra, come on. I need you to sit next to Sue. Sorry.
Final reflections. Any thoughts you want to share?
No, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming tonight. And I hope there's a massive change when you come back again in the next 12 months, do you think?
Oh, yeah,
Before? A lot sooner. I'll pass you on to Sue, thank you.
I just agree with everything Mark said. No, I haven't really. I think my hopes is we actually get the lease for the building, that we grow stronger as a community. And I mean, I hate to say this, but I think, you know, people don't walk over a small grassroots community centre, because I think that's what happens in a lot of cases. So I really hope for the future that we survive.
Thanks, Sue. Love to also say a couple of thank yous, particularly to the people on the panel tonight. Thanks for giving up your time and sharing so generously with the crowd here. Thank you to John at The Guardian and the Guardian Foundation and your funders for the support. Thanks to the team at Church Action on Poverty. They've come across from Manchester today and we wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. Of course, to Kensington Fields and to the staff, the volunteers, the residents, thank you for welcoming us and letting us in to do this project. For saying yes. Sue likes my crazy phone calls when I say, oh, could we just do this together? So thank you for saying yes. Want to thank Cinema Nation. They've helped us screen the film tonight and their passion is for community screenings. So thank you to Michael Monica for doing that. It was very smooth. To Breaking Ground for all your work that you've done supporting this community and other communities. And of course to the Kenny Fields Community Land Trust, long may you continue to grow and may change happen in this community. Thank you for coming tonight. Do hang around. I'm told they're not kicking us out. The bar is still open. There's still some food. Stay, chat, have a look at what's on the walls as well, because there's lots to read and lots of great photos. So thank you everyone for coming tonight, and we'll see you soon.